different former romantic partner of Representative Corey Mills, who was apparently in a relationship with Representative Mills from November 21st to February 2025, reported to authorities in Florida that Representative Mills threatened to release new images and other intimate videos of her and threatened to harm her future romantic partners in retaliation for her decision to end the relationship.
The Republican Party is reportedly tearing itself apart right now over what sources suggest could be a conspiracy theory that's exposing their deepest fear about the midterm elections. We're not talking about typical political disagreements or policy disputes. We're talking about top MAGA influencers allegedly accusing Vice President J.D. Vance of deliberately sabotaging Republicans in the midterms so Democrats can win Congress and impeach Trump, making Vance president. Trump's closest advisor, Laura Loomer, is reportedly claiming this is an active plot, a coup happening right now, and the accusations have allegedly triggered a massive civil war where MAGA influencers are attacking each other, where Marjorie Taylor Greene is defending Vance while Loomer claims she's been disavowed by Trump, where the entire Republican coalition might be fracturing over the question of whether Vance is secretly working to get Trump impeached. And if this conspiracy theory gains traction, if Republicans start believing their own VP is plotting against the president, the party cohesion needed to avoid midterm disasters could collapse completely before voting even begins. But before we break down how this impeachment conspiracy theory could accelerate the Republican Party's implosion, please subscribe to our channel, John Brown Show. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what this conspiracy theory actually claims and why sources suggest it reveals Republicans' deepest fears about their political situation. Because on the surface, the accusation is that Vance might be deliberately causing Republicans to lose midterms so Democrats gain impeachment power. That he's allegedly undermining Trump's presidency to position himself to become president through removal rather than election. That sounds absurd. But the fact that prominent MAGA voices are reportedly making these claims seriously suggests underlying panic about Republican electoral prospects. If influential figures believe the midterms are going so badly that they need conspiracy theories to explain it, if they're looking for internal saboteurs rather than acknowledging policy failures, that indicates they might recognize the party is heading toward devastating losses.
With Representative Mills, after seeing the public reports described above concerning the alleged February 2025 physical assault.
And once Republicans start turning on each other over who's responsible for coming disasters, the unity needed to prevent those disasters evaporates. The conspiracy theory could become self-fulfilling prophecy where Republican civil war ensures the midterm losses they're so terrified will lead to Trump's impeachment. Let's start with what Laura Loomer is allegedly claiming, because her specific accusations might reveal the paranoia spreading through MAGA world about Republican prospects. Sources indicate Loomer posted that people in the GOP are deliberately trying to botch the midterms so Trump gets impeached. That once Trump is impeached, everyone knows what happens next. That it's all part of their plan, and once you see it, there's no unseeing it. Think about what that accusation implies. Loomer isn't claiming Republicans will accidentally lose the midterms due to unpopular policies or Trump's declining approval. She's reportedly suggesting deliberate sabotage. That there are Republicans actively working to ensure the party loses so Trump faces removal. That's conspiracy thinking. That's seeing intentional plots rather than recognizing political reality. And sources suggest Loomer specifically targeted Vance as the alleged mastermind. That she attacked him for speaking at a March for Life event, questioning why the GOP is pushing abortion messaging in a midterm election year. That she claimed Trump doesn't like when the GOP focuses on abortion, and doing so will allegedly blow the midterms. The implication might be that Vance is deliberately emphasizing the issue Republicans have lost on repeatedly because he wants the party to lose. But here's what makes this particularly revealing. Reports indicate Trump himself sent video to that March for Life event, that Trump encouraged Vance to accept the speaking invitation. So Loomer is allegedly claiming Vance is sabotaging Trump by doing exactly what Trump told him to do. That contradiction suggests the conspiracy theory isn't based on actual evidence, but on working backward from the conclusion that midterm losses are coming and finding someone to blame. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show because Vance reportedly responded by pointing out these contradictions. That Trump literally sent video supporting the event Loomer was criticizing, that some conservative influencers spend all their time attacking the administration and sewing division rather than supporting it, that it's disgraceful. And that response allegedly triggered even more intense backlash from Loomer and her supporters, who started demanding Vance also condemn other critics like Tucker Carlson. And there's another element sources suggest is significant. Loomer allegedly claimed Marjorie Taylor Greene called Trump a pedophile protector and that Vance never condemned her for it. That creates additional fractures where different MAGA factions are using past statements to attack each other's credibility. Greene then reportedly defended Vance against Loomer, creating the spectacle of Trump's closest congressional ally and his closest advisor publicly warring over whether the VP is committing treason. But strip away the conspiracy theory specifics and focus on what it reveals about Republican psychology. Sources suggest the entire accusation is built on assumption that Trump will get impeached if Democrats take Congress. That impeachment is inevitable given Democratic control, that the only question is whether Republicans lose accidentally due to bad policies or deliberately due to internal sabotage. And that underlying assumption might be the most significant aspect of this entire civil war. Think about what it means if Republicans genuinely believe Democratic congressional control equals Trump impeachment. That suggests they might recognize the evidence of impeachable conduct exists, that they understand Democrats would have legitimate grounds to pursue removal if they gain investigative and prosecutorial power. Because if Republicans thought impeachment was baseless political theater, they wouldn't fear it this intensely. The terror suggests consciousness of guilt. And Trump himself has allegedly reinforced this fear. Reports indicate he told Republicans at their retreat that losing the midterms means he gets impeached every single week. That's Trump admitting the vulnerability, acknowledging that only Republican congressional control protects him from accountability. And if Trump has been that explicit about the stakes, of course, Republicans are panicking about anything that might contribute to midterm losses. But here's where the conspiracy thinking becomes particularly destructive for Republican prospects. If influential voices like Loomer convince segments of the base that establishment Republicans or even Vance are deliberately sabotaging the party, that could suppress turnout. Why would MAGA voters show up enthusiastically if they believe the fix is in? Why would they donate money or volunteer if they think Republican leadership wants Trump impeached? The conspiracy theory could create the exact conditions that make midterm disasters more likely. Share this video with everyone you know, because sources suggest there's another dimension to the impeachment fear. It's not just that Democrats might pursue removal, it's that some Republicans might actually vote for it if given political cover. If Trump's approval continues cratering, if his policies keep failing, if association with him becomes electoral poison, some Republican senators facing difficult re-elections might calculate that convicting Trump and moving on to Vance gives them better chances. And if MAGA influencers are already worried about that possibility, their conspiracy theories about internal sabotage might reflect real concerns about Republican unity fracturing under political pressure. But the Loomer-Vance fight reportedly isn't the only Republican civil war happening right now. Sources indicate there are multiple simultaneous conflicts tearing the party apart in ways that could make governing impossible and midterm campaigning chaotic, and each conflict might reveal different fractures in the coalition Trump built. Reports suggest Congresswoman Nancy Mace has been going to the House floor repeatedly to read police reports alleging that Representative Corey Mills engaged in domestic violence, that she's detailed accusations of him allegedly threatening former partners, physically assaulting someone, having restraining orders against him, that she's made his alleged personal conduct a public spectacle on the congressional record. Think about what that represents. A Republican congresswoman using official House proceedings to destroy another Republican congressman's reputation, not over policy disagreements, over alleged personal misconduct that she's determined to expose publicly. And sources indicate the allegations against Mills might be extensive. Reports of owing tens of thousands in back rent. Multiple allegations of violence from different women. claims he allegedly hired sex workers during military operations that became his political calling card. If even a fraction of these allegations are accurate, Mills might represent exactly the kind of ethical disaster that damages the entire party's credibility when he's allowed to remain in office. But here's what makes this particularly damaging. Mills is reportedly a MAGA Republican from Florida's 7th District. He's supposed to be part of Trump's coalition in Congress. Yet another Republican is systematically trying to destroy him publicly. That creates spectacle where instead of unified party messaging, you have Republicans attacking Republicans over alleged domestic violence and financial irresponsibility, and potentially endangering military operations for personal gratification. Now, some sources suggest all of this chaos reveals something fundamental about MAGA governance. These Republicans allegedly aren't focused on policy, aren't working on affordability or healthcare or any issues voters care about. Instead, they're consumed by internal warfare, personal scandals, conspiracy theories about each other. And voters who are struggling with grocery prices and healthcare costs might look at this circus and decide they want actual governance rather than perpetual drama. But contrast the Republican chaos with what Democrats might be offering, because sources suggest there are candidates emerging who represent actual alternatives focused on real issues rather than conspiracy theories and personal scandals. And if those alternatives gain traction, Republican fears about midterm losses could prove well-founded, regardless of whether anyone is deliberately sabotaging them. Reports indicate there's a Democratic candidate in Mills District who represents a stark contrast to the chaos. Decorated Navy captain, former NASA chief of staff, someone with actual leadership experience and focus on constituent services, the kind of person who might appeal to voters exhausted by MAGA dysfunction, even in districts that typically lean Republican. And sources suggest this candidate is talking about issues Republicans have made worse. Healthcare costs that have allegedly increased 400% for some families. Small businesses struggling because employees can't afford to miss work due to lack of insurance. Grocery prices and utility costs and insurance rates spiraling while Congress does nothing to help. Those are kitchen table issues that affect everyone regardless of party. And if Democrats make elections about those concrete concerns, while Republicans are consumed by conspiracy theories, the electoral dynamics could shift dramatically. Think about what Republican vulnerability on these issues means. Trump ran promising to make America affordable again, but costs keep rising. Tariffs are allegedly increasing prices on consumer goods. Healthcare remains unaffordable and potentially getting worse. The economy isn't delivering for regular people even as billionaires get richer. When your signature issues become your biggest liabilities, you lose the ability to set the campaign agenda. And there's reportedly another element, foreign policy chaos where Trump threatens allies, talks about invading Greenland, creates instability that military families and veterans might find deeply concerning. When you have decorated veterans running against MAGA Republicans, they can speak credibly about how Trump's recklessness endangers troops and undermines alliances that keep Americans safe. That's powerful messaging that could cut through normal partisan loyalty. But beyond the civil wars and the conspiracy theories, sources suggest there's hard polling data that might explain Republican panic about impeachment, because the numbers reportedly show Trump and his agenda have become deeply unpopular on issues that were supposed to be his strengths. And when your best issues poll underwater, electoral catastrophe becomes realistic possibility rather than paranoid fantasy. Reports indicate Trump's approval on immigration enforcement has gone negative, that more Americans disapprove than approve of how he's handling what was supposed to be his signature issue. Think about what that represents. Trump built his entire political brand on being tough on immigration. It's the issue his base cares most about, and even that has reportedly gone underwater in public opinion. When you lose your strongest issue, what do you campaign on? And sources suggest Trump's economic approval might be even worse, hitting all-time lows even compared to his first term. When the economy is your calling card, when you promise to make everything affordable, and voters increasingly think you're doing a poor job, that's electoral disaster waiting to happen. especially when exit polls show economy is the top issue determining how people vote. Think about Republican vulnerability heading into midterms with these numbers. Historically, the president's party loses seats in midterms. That's already working against Trump. Add approval ratings that are negative on his signature issues. Add controversies that have fractured his coalition. Add conspiracy theories creating internal divisions. The combination could produce landslide losses that give Democrats not just narrow majorities, but potentially comfortable ones. And if Democrats gain comfortable majorities, impeachment becomes not just possible, but likely, because they won't need every single member to support it. They can afford some moderates voting no and still have numbers to proceed. That's what might really terrify Trump and explain why he's been so explicit about the stakes. He might genuinely believe the evidence exists to remove him if Democrats gain subpoena power and investigative authority. Share this with everyone because sources suggest there's another factor. Midterm election dynamics often get decided by which party's voters are more enthusiastic. Republicans have fractured base where MAGA purists are at war with establishment figures, where conspiracy theories suggest internal sabotage, where personal scandals distract from campaigning. Democrats might be more unified around opposition to Trump and desire to hold him accountable. In an enthusiasm election, Democrats could have every advantage. But here's where Republican panic about impeachment could become the very thing that ensures it happens, because the conspiracy theories and civil wars might suppress Republican turnout while energizing Democratic opposition. The fear could create the outcome they're trying to prevent through exactly the mechanisms they're using to express that fear. Think about how this plays out. Loomer and other influencers convince portions of MAGA base that establishment Republicans or even Vance are deliberately sabotaging Trump. Some voters decide their participation doesn't matter if the fix is in. Turnout drops. Democrats win races they wouldn't have otherwise. Congressional control flips. Impeachment becomes reality. The conspiracy theory about deliberate sabotage produces the same outcome actual sabotage would have created. And sources suggest the Republican civil wars make this worse by consuming energy and resources that should go to campaigning. Instead of unified messaging about policy achievements, you have MAGA figures attacking each other publicly. Instead of raising money for competitive races, donors might be confused about which Republicans to support when the coalition is fracturing. Instead of volunteer enthusiasm, you have activists fighting over conspiracy theories. All of that degrades campaign effectiveness. But there's reportedly another self-fulfilling element. Republican dysfunction and chaos might push independent voters toward Democrats, even in typically Republican districts. When your representative is allegedly involved in domestic violence scandals, or your party leaders are accusing each other of treason, that doesn't inspire confidence. Voters who might normally stick with Republicans could decide the party has become too unhinged to govern effectively. And if Republican losses are bad enough, if evidence of Trump's conduct is clear enough, some Republican senators might actually vote to convict rather than go down with the ship. They might calculate that loyalty to Trump costs them their own seats, that their political survival depends on creating distance. That's when impeachment moves from Democratic goal to bipartisan reality. And Republican fears about losing Congress leading to Trump's removal become accurate prediction rather than paranoid conspiracy. So what does all of this mean for Democrats and anyone concerned about accountability? Because sources suggest Republican implosion creates opportunities, but also requires strategic choices about how to capitalize on chaos without appearing equally dysfunctional. The goal might be appearing as stable governing alternative rather than just beneficiaries of opponents' self-destruction. Reports indicate Democrats are focusing on kitchen table issues while Republicans fight amongst themselves. Healthcare costs, grocery prices, housing affordability, all the concrete concerns affecting real families. That contrast could be powerful. While MAGA wages civil war over conspiracy theories, Democrats talk about solutions to problems people actually face. That positions them as party focused on governance rather than drama. And sources suggest Democrats are being strategic about impeachment messaging, not leading with it despite Trump's obvious vulnerabilities. instead letting it be consequence of Democratic congressional victories rather than the stated goal. That frames November as referendum on Trump's performance rather than partisan witch hunt. Win on issues, gain investigative power, then pursue accountability based on evidence rather than political motivation. Think about how this strategy could work. Democrats campaign on making life affordable again, on protecting health care, on bringing stability to foreign policy. They win because voters want those things and Republicans aren't delivering. Then once in power, they use oversight authority to document Trump's misconduct. Impeachment becomes response to evidence rather than predetermined outcome. That's harder for Trump to characterize as political persecution. And there's reportedly another element. Democrats highlighting Republican chaos and dysfunction to argue for change in leadership. Not just criticizing Trump, but pointing to the entire MAGA coalition as incapable of governing. Using examples like Mills scandals or Loomer's conspiracy theories to demonstrate the party has lost its way. That creates permission structure for Republican voters to defect without feeling they're betraying conservative principles. They're just recognizing this particular iteration of conservatism has failed. So here's what Republican implosion over impeachment fears reveals. Top MAGA influencers allegedly accusing Vice President Vance of deliberately sabotaging midterm elections so Democrats can impeach Trump. Conspiracy theories suggesting internal plots rather than acknowledging policy failures and declining approval. Multiple simultaneous civil wars where Republicans attack each other over personal scandals and ideological purity. Polling showing Trump underwater on signature issues that were supposed to be his strengths. And panic that could become self-fulfilling prophecy where Republican dysfunction ensures the midterm losses they fear will lead to Trump's removal. The political implications could be enormous. If Republicans remain consumed by conspiracy theories and internal warfare rather than unified campaigning, Democratic victories become more likely. If Trump's approval continues cratering while costs keep rising and chaos multiplies, swing voters might break decisively against Republicans. If enough seats flip, Democrats gain not just investigative power, but potentially the votes needed to pursue impeachment with realistic chances of success. And the conspiracy theory that Vance is plotting Trump's removal could actually help create conditions where removal becomes possible. By fracturing Republican unity, suppressing MAGA enthusiasm, distracting from actual campaigning, the very fears about losing Congress might ensure Congress gets lost. Then impeachment moves from conspiracy theory to constitutional proceeding based on evidence Democrats can finally subpoena and investigate. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show because we're covering every development in Republican Civil War and the path toward potential impeachment. Every new conspiracy theory that emerges from MAGA influencers. Every polling indication of Republican vulnerability. Every way that party dysfunction makes Democratic victories more likely. This could be the moment when Republican implosion becomes so complete that Trump's presidency can't survive it. Stay tuned.